Hi, welcome to episode 2 of Content Marketing and today we're going to be focusing on content marketing and Star Wars. Certainly a franchise I'm very interested in, so I want to tie it into my career somehow, so that's how I came up with this topic. And I'm going to start every episode out like this. This is the concept behind why I do this, is I buy into the fact that, along with Seth here, that content marketing is the only marketing left. And I believe that if you want to be successful in marketing, if you want to achieve a lot of success, you really have to buy into content marketing. So how does that apply to Star Wars? Well, let's first look at this. Everybody would certainly agree that the marketing machine that is Star Wars and George Lucas is probably the most successful franchise in history when you look at not just movie grosses, but also merchandise. Look how long it's been going on. We look at things like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, but those are new still. Those are all coming, in the 21st century. Star Wars was actually, 1977, and we have a new movie that just came out at the end of 2015, and the brand is just going as strong as it always has. And I think most people, when you think about Star Wars, most people would guess that the real money there is not just the movies, it's the merchandise. So how much money are we really talking about? Just looking at some of the basic numbers. Over the years, this is probably a round number, but Star Wars has generated $20 billion in merchandise sales. $8.2 billion from the movies. So that's the box office, plus, like DVDs, home videos, on demand, things like that as well. But here's the fact that the stat that I think is my favorite, which is $3 billion of that has come in 2011. So why is that interesting to me? The prequel trilogy ended in 2006, and even the announcement of new movies didn't happen until 2012. Yet in 2011, $3 billion was made in licensing for Star Wars in 2011. So that just really shows how strong the brand of Star Wars really is. It made $3 billion a year when it probably wasn't nearly as relevant as other years, like when the prequel sequels were in the last 3 years. People knew this new movie was coming out. The interest obviously spiked, but even on off years when not much is going on in the Star Wars trilogy, it's still making it. And they're making it everywhere you can. I mean, look at this, chopsticks, toasters. These things are, sure, they're novelties, but people just love them. All you gotta do is see these things on social media. People immediately are buying. So how is it able to be this successful? How is this merchandise just, gone off the map here and just completely taken everyone by storm? And why is it making so much money? Obviously, we know that a lot of movies try and do similar things and have similar success. Not quite as much, but great success with movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the day was incredibly successful with merchandise. Other movies like the Transformers, obviously big into toys, and that had a lot of success, but nothing is even close to Star Wars. So why, in my opinion, is it at a different level than any other franchise? Why is it so successful, and why does this relate to content marketing? Because I think that all you really need is a great story, and that's what Star Wars was. Obviously, whenever you make a movie, you're trying to make money, but George Lucas, at the heart, he made a really great story that people resonate with people as that's definitely my life. I can relate to the stories that are going on there, but people just gotten captivated in this world and this incredible story that George Lucas had made. And that is at the principle of everything with content marketing. Whenever you think about that, you've said a great story. Just tell that great story, outside of brand value, just create a great story and people will flock to it. And Star Wars is a perfect example of that. 1977, it was not supposed to be as successful as it was, and it's still going strong to this day. And it's certainly an example of, if you create one awesome piece of content, you can use that content for the rest of your brand's life cycle. You don't have to be creating something brand new every single week all the time. If you take your time and create one awesome piece of content, in this case it would be a movie, which I believe can be classified as content. If you create one piece of content, you can just make subsections of that. So now Star Wars obviously has made, there's been 7 Star Wars movies. Now they're planning on making 1 a year for the rest of time, essentially. And this new movie is making more money than any other movie, so it's certainly not going away anytime soon. If you create one piece of content, you can live off that. So if you take your time and create one amazing story, one amazing piece of content, you can just use that for the rest of your brand cycle. You know, you don't have to be thinking of all these brand new ideas and new concepts. Just use the Star Wars mentality. Create one awesome story, one great piece of content, and just feed off of that. And if you do that, you can get away with some blunders because your brand can be strong enough where you can get away with some mistakes. I think most people agree the biggest blunder, and this is not supposed to be a movie review, the biggest blunder in Star Wars trilogy was Jar Jar Binks. I didn't dislike him as much people, but let's just use this. The criticism that he was getting was that George Lucas got about Jar Jar Binks was it was made just purely as a toyetic play. What does toyetic mean? It's making something with the intention of, I'm only doing this so I can sell merchandise, sell toys later. And that was a term coined by Bernard Loomis. And it was criticized that he made that purely to make toys. Now, obviously, there was a lot of toys that came from the original one that were very, friendly for making toys, like R2-D2 and Darth Vader, obviously a very easy costume. But he did that because he was creating a story. He wasn't doing that for toys. He obviously saw potential in it, given that he took a royalty of the merchandise instead of a full director's fee. But whether he did or did not with Jar Jar Binks create that for that reason, it was a problem. And I personally would believe that that was made to create toys. And as a result, he had a little blunder. Luckily, Star Wars is so strong, it didn't really hurt them long term. But the lesson here is if you look at the money first, you're not going to create a good enough piece of content. Look at like blogs, for instance. If you create a blog to make money, you're probably not passionate about that topic enough where you're going to keep going with it. Blogs that have been successful, that have gone on to make a lot of money, and even turn into businesses, have all been because people had a passion about them and were able to write about it on a consistent basis or post about them on a consistent basis. That's how you become successful. So you have to think about your audience first, and the money will come later. So let's tie this all up. This is a big topic. I could probably have many episodes on this in the future, but how does this directly apply to content marketing? What kind of lessons can you learn from it? Well, the one I just talked about there is know your audience, respect your audience, and produce content that they want first. Don't worry about the financial benefits later. If you create something compelling enough, for your audience, the success will come as a result of that. You want to make sure that that content is quality. So we can all agree that the first Star Wars movie was quality to such an extent that it's lived on this long past, 40, 50 years, it's going to continue to go on. And by creating quality doesn't mean creating a lot of things. You can be patient, just create one piece of content and live off of that. So to use another example that Andrew Davis always uses when he speaks on, content marketing was Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. I'll probably talk on this in a later episode, but they created a documentary about somebody being healthy, and he used a blender to do it. But the documentary was around being healthy and how to juice your way back to health through the power of juice. And their company was transformed by this documentary. Their sales went off the roof. They changed the market of blenders. They created a whole new market. So successful, again, because they were patient. Instead of creating a whole bunch of blogs and things on this, they invested their time, learned their audience, and made one awesome piece of content. And they were able to live off that. And then they just released a sequel a few years ago too. And that's kind of their play, very similar to the Star Wars mentality. And finally, nothing beats a big brand. I mentioned earlier, like Star Wars can afford some blunders. I'm sure it'll have lots of blunders in the future, movies that might not go down as well, things like that. Because they took their time to create something so strong. The Star Wars brand is so strong that you can afford blunders, you can afford to take risks, and everybody knows your brand, so as a result, you'll be more successful. So always invest in your brand. Always keep your brand first and foremost, what you stand for, what your values are. So those are just a few lessons you can take from Star Wars. From a content marketing point of view, I think personally it can be thought of as one of the most compelling pieces of content marketing that I've ever seen, because it had no intention of being any kind of marketing when it was created. So thank you for your time, and I will be back next Friday with my next episode. All right. Bye.